It was ridiculous to see they had to write these notes and beg him for their own cash.
Hi, Anjanette.
It always gets me thinking about how important it is to stay safe. Well, this can help you do that. It's called Calm Pepper Spray.
What is this?
It's a small but...
Wait, what happened to the Raid Shadow Legends? I feel like I saw one Raid Shadow Legends ad they did, and I never saw it ever again. I thought it was so funny because, like, I'm used to seeing Raid Shadow Legends plugins and stuff because, you know, on Twitch, a lot of them partner with streamers, and like streamers try to do the Raid Shadow Legends streams. But dude, I was watching Law and Crime one day, and I was like, and all of a sudden Jesse Weaver was like, Raid Shadow Legends, and I was like, oh, Raid Shadow Legends on here too now. All right, so this is some pepper spray. Use code LAWCRIME10.
I'm
okay?
Anjanette Levy, and welcome to Law and Crime's Sidebar Podcast. During Alex Murdaugh's double murder trial, we heard about a number of clients that he represented related to lawsuits that he filed on their behalf, particularly during the cross-examination by Assistant Attorney General Creighton Waters. Two of those clients were...
Does anyone know when they're going to start doing the trial stuff for the financial crimes? Is that going to take some time for them to get all the paperwork and gather all the information and interviews from all the victims and stuff like that?
Children when Murdaugh met them. Elena Spahn and her younger sister, Hannah Plyers.
Who were the plowers?
They were two young girls from Colombia.
They were underage when they became your clients?
Yes, sir.
Did they suffer a loss in their family as a result of an accident?
Well, that went down the wrong air hole. I'm so sorry, guys. I think it's because I'm sick, so
They did.
Can we just blame it on that?
What loss did they suffer? Who died?
Their mother did.
Joining me to discuss her experience with Alex Murdaugh is Elena Spahn. She was just a kid when her mother and her brother were killed in a car accident. She was critically injured, and her attorney, Eric Bland, is with us as well. Elena, welcome to Sidebar. Thanks for coming on. I'm wondering, first of all, just take me back to when this happened, the car accident back in 2005.
Yeah, her story is really sad. I feel so bad for her.
And Alex Murdaugh,
because like not only did she go through this horrible accident where she lost her brother and mother, but then there's some other stuff that happened to her later in life, and I feel so bad. She really got screwed by them.
Somebody that befriended you. This is somebody you probably look to as, a figure that could help you out in life, a father figure, maybe.
Right. So in 2005, July 16th, I was involved in a car accident with my mom, my brother, my sister, and myself. We were in Hardyville, South Carolina. We were driving up to Columbia that weekend. So this was on a Friday evening. And coming through Hampton County on I-95, we had a tire blowout, and Mom lost control of the vehicle. And that's when we veered off and flipped over, hit several trees. And it was very clear that my mom, my brother did not make it.
Aww.
And you almost lost your leg. Tell me a little bit about that, what you're comfortable sharing.
Sure. So during the accident, I was pinned in the vehicle, and it was almost like in an embankment. So I remember telling my sister, because she was the only one that could get out, I told her and instructed her to get out of the vehicle, go to the top of the interstate, and try to flag somebody down, because I was afraid that nobody would see our vehicle down in this embankment. So,
and I think she was only like 12 around the time. Her story is so heartbreaking. Yeah, I think she was only 12 too, or maybe they might mention the age later on.
At 8 years old, my sisters go into the top of the interstate and
oh wait.
So at 8 years old, my sisters go into the top of the interstate and flagging someone down. And at that point, there was an 18-wheeler that had pulled over, and also some other people that had pulled over. And then when law enforcement and fire rescue arrived, they used the jaws of life on me to remove me from the vehicle. And I was airlifted to Savannah Hospital. I had crushed my left shoulder, my left knee.
Oh my God.
Completely out, and broke my right femur in 2 different places. Those were the majority of the major injuries, and of course, significant loss of blood. Gone through about 15 surgeries in that first 3 years. So yeah, it was very traumatic.
Is the audio okay? I feel like the audio is a little bit low, but I already have it boosted to 100%. I don't know. Should I make it louder? I can use my my Google Chrome thing and make it louder, but sometimes it like distorts the audio a little bit.
Elena was 12 and Hannah was just 8 years old at the time of the crash. Their mother, Angela, and brother, Justin, were killed in that crash. Elena spent a month in the hospital and then went to live with family, including her father, who was separated from their mother at the time of the crash.
He chose to go out just about every night, and just kind of me and Hannah there, and we felt very out of place.
Okay, I'll use the audio booster. I think if you have headphones in, it's probably fine. But if you have it on like speaker, which I usually listen to streams on speaker, it's probably too low. Let me boost it up a little bit, and hopefully it doesn't distort it too much.
I was bound to a hospital bed for several months, so Hannah took care of me while I was in the hospital bed, and because I couldn't move and I couldn't walk, I had a cast on both legs, cast on an arm, so I for several months I couldn't do anything on my own. But once I regained movement in my arm, my legs, and did the therapy and everything, and physically I got better. That's when I started realizing like Hannah and I weren't necessarily as welcome in the home as the rest of the family was.
Yeah, this is such a sad story.
And when they ended up moving out of my grandparents' house, Hannah and I started getting shipped to different family members throughout our lives for several years, just because.
I can't believe there was no family member that was like willing to take them in. I mean, you know what? Sometimes you just have shit family and it just really sucks.
Because pretty much we felt like whatever family member needed that Social Security check that month, that's who we lived with. So Hannah and I lived out of bags, slept on couches for several years that people never knew about. But I mean, we did what we had to do, to stay together.
Elena and Hannah's father got an attorney who then brought on another lawyer to help represent them. That was Alex Murdaugh.
He's really good with talking with people. He was very convincing, very, very friendly, but also.
And the fact that she was dealing with so much, and then the next person that she's got to deal with is Alex Murdaugh and fucking Russell Lafitte. Like, dude, like, I don't know. I just feel so bad for her. Like, so much should have just gone down before she's even turned the age of like 18.
So very adamant, like, what they did was wrong, and we're going to make this right. I assure you of this, and you're going to get all this money. You're never going to have to work another day in your life.
All this fluff talk, man. Dude, all this fluff talk.
I'm going to make this right. And like, I trusted him, and I felt like this is the guy to go to for sure. He was just good with his words. He was very convincing that we were.
Dude, when we moved to this place and we needed people to do some work done, and they ended up being like pretty much scammers. Dude, the fluff talk, man. Like, oh yeah, we can totally do this. Oh, we got this. We'll take care of you and all this stuff. And then when something goes wrong, what happens? They fucking disappear on you.
We're going to be okay financially. And so I talked to him several times on the phone. And then eventually those led up to depositions for the case. So I met him at depositions. And so, but it was like meeting a friend. It was just like seeing a friend that I hadn't seen in a while. We had talked on the phone so many times. So by the time we actually met each other in person, it wasn't strange or anything. I remember him hugging me, and there was a lot of people in the room, and my nickname was Laney growing up. So he would call me Laney, and he would say, Laney, we're going to make this right. We're going to make this right. And even at the deposition, I remember him telling me that he had a son, but he only mentioned Buster. I didn't even know he had two sons until later on. And so he put himself in a position where he would explain, like, I'm a father, I've got a son, I've got a wife, and
wait, I've got a son. He didn't even say I got two sons.
So making it almost like he could connect to the case, and like he couldn't imagine going through that. So, yeah, that was the first time I met him in person. But the conversations continued on the phone through several years. He would call me, letting me know that they're moving in the case and things are looking good. He'd ask how my dad was doing.
Yeah, I believe she was able to get her money when she turned 18. However, what she didn't know was that they were basically treating her money like a bank account before she turned 18. So they would just borrow money, take some money here and there and put it back, I guess.
So did the case actually take years for you to get money? I mean, or was this a case where the money was there and you just didn't know about it?
No, it took years.
It did take years. Okay.
Yeah, Ronnie Crosby of Alex's firm was really the hard worker. He's their go-to products liability guy on rollover cases and tire separation, tread separation cases. And so Alex was the point man that got the case from Arnold Beecham, but the guy that actually worked it and made them, the value in it was Ronnie Crosby.
So Eric, come into this now and tell me where the wrongdoing occurred between Alex Murdaugh and Russell Lafitte.
In her case, Alania's and Hannah's, they appointed Russ Lafitte as the conservator. And so the initial filing was wrong. They were not residents of Hampton County, so it never could have gone in there. And then once he was appointed a conservator, he got 5% of the settlement amounts. Hannah's settlement was like a little under $3 million or about $3 million. And Alania's settlement was $4.5 million because she had much more injuries and permanent injuries. than Hannah did. And so he received, just by the virtue of being named conservator, 5% of their money.
Wow.
And then going forward, he received a 5% annual fee to manage their money.
Wow.
Eric Bland said that Russell Lafitte then started loaning money to himself and Alex Murdaugh from the accounts belonging to Hannah and Elena.
He decided that he was going to loan conservatorship funds, which is an absolute no-no. The job of a conservator is, as the word says, to conserve, to preserve their funds. But he decided, instead of putting them in an FDIC-backed CD that would be backed by the financial government, these girls were not looking to get 20% on their money. They wanted their money to be preserved. They were young and they wanted it to make sure.
But I'm just confused though, because Russell Lafitte works at a bank, and like it's not just like it's like one person who has like total control of the money. I don't know, maybe like in a small town, maybe this is a small bank or something. But like, wouldn't there be other employees who would be like aware of this? Like, hey, you got this account, and what's going on with this account right now? Like, wouldn't they realize if the balances were like dipping or something like that? Like, I don't know. I'm just so confused how like no one knew about this. Unless there's more people that were in on it.
Sure, it would, when they turned 18, it would last. And so Russell became a father figure to them, didn't tell them that he was loaning money to Alex, didn't tell them that he was loaning money to himself, to the point that he had an existing loan with South State Bank, Russell did, for 7.25% on a line of equity that he had. And he took Hannah's money and paid off that loan, but then signed a promissory note to Hannah where he only agreed to pay her 2.5%. So he lowered his interest amount that he was obligated. And of course, it wasn't secured.
Yeah, he's using it as his personal piggy bank, their money.
I mean, it's so ridiculous. And then he started loaning money to Alex. And Alex, he knew, was an extreme credit risk with the bank, because you heard in the murder trial that he was overdrafted at any given time, anywhere between $50,000 and $350,000.
Oh my God, these are great shots of him, by the way.
So he starts loaning
Got the beady
Alex
eyes
money,
on point.
unsecured. And again, Alex was always late. Alex wasn't paying interest on time. And so he never enforced those obligations. And at the same time that he's doing this very liberal loaning of the money of the girls, he's acting like he's Sergeant Schultz over their money when they needed money for school.
Yeah, that's
for
so messed up.
a band uniform, or to go on a school trip, or to Disney World to go with the school. He would oftentimes say no. He would say, unless you produce receipts, I'm not going to give it to you.
Yeah, I would love to see these communications. I don't know if these communications are only on phone or if there's any like on email, just like seeing these girls like, hey, can I get money for like a school trip, or can I get money to get like a uniform thing? And then seeing the stingy guy being like, no, I'm not going to give you any money. You have to produce receipts to me. Do you really need these uniforms or something like that? I don't know, like just like really like shitty stuff like that. Meanwhile, he's just like giving money to his like friend, letting the friend borrow money and stuff. And it's like not even their money.
He did go to the court to get permission to give them up to $200 a month, that he wouldn't have to go back to court.
Like even this guy, this lawyer right here, he even looks stressed even talking about this.
It could be up to $200 a month, but he's turned them down for
You can tell that even he's like pissed off.
cell phones. He turned Elena down for a car loan. She needed a car when she was 16 years old to take Hannah to school, to take herself to school. She was in the band. One of them was a majorette or something like that. He denied him a car. It was ridiculous to see. They had to write these notes and beg him for their own cash. And, he didn't need to give them a car loan at 18% because they had their money.
Hi, Joe.
$600,000 worth that was sitting in the bank.
They could have paid cash. Alex Murdaugh brought in his friend, the CEO of Palmetto State Bank, Russell Lafitte, to serve as a conservator for both Elena.
Oh, I forgot. Russell Lafitte was the CEO. I forgot about that. I thought Russell Lafitte was just like some mid banker at a fucking bank. Oh, he was a fucking CEO. No wonder he probably like hit his tracks or something, or like maybe no one wanted to speak up, and say like, hey, what's up with these balances? Like, aren't you the one who's in charge of this? Why are the balances dipping?
Elena and her younger sister, Hannah. Elena talked to me about what happened when that conservatorship ended when she turned 18.
It was a quick 10-minute meeting. Like, here's all these binders. Inside here will be all the documents throughout the years of being your conservator. Basically, good luck. Didn't give any kind of like direction. Didn't give any recommendations on what to do with this lump sum of money that was about to be wired to me. Explained nothing to me. it was literally like I'm checking out, and here's your paperwork. Have good luck.
And so what did you do then?
So took the paperwork, and at this point I'm 18 years old. I'm getting told that I'll have $600,000 in my account in a couple days. So I'm excited. I should have been grabbed by the reins and come back down to life and be like, look, this is a lot of money. Let me help you invest it. Like, let's talk about investing it. There was none of that. They literally, Russell just was like, you'll get some money in your account soon, $600,000. And that was it.
Yeah, it was probably because he didn't really give a shit about these girls. Once they turned 18 and he didn't have access to that money anymore, he's like, well, why do I care about you? Here you go. Bye.
So when she was 17, she was tired of getting shuttled back and forth to different homes. So she goes to Russell and says, I want to buy a house. I need stability. Can you imagine a 17-year-old girl saying this? And so they went and looked at some homes, and Russell kept vetoing a lot of the homes that she liked and actually made her buy a home that he liked more than she did because the kitchen was small and it didn't fit her needs, but she was so desperate at the time to get a house. So he buys her the house. He doesn't tell her, you got to get homeowners insurance. You got to get insurance to protect yourself against casualty, flooding, fire, whatever.
I actually thought, I thought that when you did buy a home though, and then you had to get homeowners insurance. Oh, you know what? Unless they paid for the home in cash. Because I think if you get a loan with the bank is like, okay, well, you got to get homeowners insurance just in case anything happens. But if they paid the home with cash, then I guess there would have been no barrier for them to have to get homeowners insurance.
So she turns 18.
Or sorry, there would have been no one that would have required to make it homeowners insurance.
18 years old. When she turns 18 years old, the conservatorship ends. Russell literally came and met her and just hands her a banker's box full of 4 or 5 notebooks, because annually every year he would have to file some type of rudimentary accounting with the probate court. But he never disclosed in those filings that he was loaning himself money or Alex money. It just said loans. It didn't say loans to whom, loans to what, for what, repayment or anything. It just said loans. And he hands her these box of documents in a 10-minute meeting and says, basically, have a good life.
In the meantime, Elena's house burned down, so she lost all of the records and financial documents related to her settlement. She says she kept calling
That's so sad. Her house burned down and she didn't have homeowners insurance.
Russell Lafitte to get those
I think you just lose everything, right?
documents, but her calls were not being returned. Then came Labor Day weekend of 2021, when Alex Murdaugh was involved in that so-called roadside shooting with his cousin.
Here's Cousin Eddie. I never seen this picture of Cousin Eddie yet.
Curtis Eddie Smith.
Hi, Cousin Eddie.
Russell and I had talked, occasionally here and there. He'd normally call me if he had a question about how to get in touch with Hannah or something. It wasn't like, hey, how are you doing? It was hey, what's Hannah's phone number? Or what's Hannah's address? Or what's your address? And it was very short, sweet, to the point. So it was kind of a coincidence because he had called me in the fall of 2021 and to let me know that SLED had contacted him and wanted all of our documents that he had during the time of our conservatorship. Several weeks later, I got a phone call from SLED. And I remember just recently, Russell told me that SLED wanted our documents. So I was putting two to two together then. And that's when SLED was explaining to me, like, no, we're investigating these things with Alec and Russell. And obviously that's not what Russell told me. It was just a check in the box sort of thing. Alex was in trouble, but Russell was not. But it was very clear that SLED was explaining, like, no, we're investigating things on both, with Alex and Russell.
Which is really stupid. I don't know why Russ would even lie to her about that, because obviously, if SLED is investigating and SLED's gonna talk to her, they're gonna tell her, like, what's up. It's like, what's the point of telling these lies if these lies are later just gonna be disputed so easily?
And so I called Russell about it, and I was like, hey, so I just got a phone call from SLED, and he's like, what did they say? And I was like, they were just asking if, like, I was Elena Plyers, that was my maiden name, where I lived, where my phone number was, if those were good contact numbers and things like that. And he's like, well, did they say anything else? And I was like, well, no. And then he's like, are you still in law enforcement? And, like, he had never asked me, like, personal questions like that. That was the first time that Russell and I actually had, like, a kind of like a personal conversation. Like, normally it was just very business like, hey, Russell, can I get some, can I get the mic? Yeah, I'll I'll see what the judge says. And then that would be it. Like, it was very short. But this conversation in 2021 was very different. And he was just asking me these odd questions. But again, I didn't think a whole lot of it.
Yeah, I wonder if he was trying to like, oh, maybe I should get close to her and be homies with her just so like, in case anything goes down, maybe she'll cover my back.
Elena is a sheriff's deputy for Lexington County, South Carolina, so she could tell something wasn't quite right. Then Alex Murdaugh started getting charged with a bunch of financial crimes. Russell Lafitte was then charged by the feds with a number of crimes, including wire fraud. She testified against Lafitte at his federal trial last year.
I would say it was a lot different being put on as a victim on the stand. Wait,
I wonder, is Russell Lafitte in jail right now?
I've testified in court so many times, but it was different being on the other side. But I knew it needed to be done. It was really hard. I had a lot of emotions just seeing Russell there. I mean, I almost felt guilty in a way just because this is a guy that, like I said, like the best way to explain him, he was a father figure to me, and now I see him and he's got the ankle monitors on, like he's not really making eye contact with me, but his family behind him was definitely making some facial remarks at us. And his
Why?
No contrition.
Okay, so hold on a second. Russell Lafitte, so this article came out a day ago. Russell Lafitte, Alex Murdaugh's friend and former CEO of Palmetto State Bank, on March 9, filed a second motion for a new trial. And he's using Murdaugh's testimony to prove his innocence. Lafitte, 51, was convicted. Oh, so he was already convicted in November 2022 on 6 financial crimes charges related to Murdaugh's decade-long corruption schemes totaling millions of dollars. And a South Carolina judge on March 6 denied his initial motion for a new trial. On February 23rd, 2023, Mr. Murdaugh explicitly stated for the first time in sworn testimony that he did not participate in the conspiracy with Mr. Lafitte because Mr. Lafitte did not participate in the financial crimes. Mr. Murdaugh took full responsibilities for his own actions and testified that Mr. Lafitte did nothing wrong and did not have any knowledge of Mr. Murdaugh's criminal activity, which I don't know if I believe. But I do remember when he was on the stand, he kept saying things like that, like, oh, Russell didn't know anything. He didn't know anything. A South Carolina a South Carolina jury on March 3rd found Murdaugh 54 guilty, blah, 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 blah. That. Lafitte helped Murdaugh steal hundreds of thousands of dollars from 6 of former lawyers' clients. Here, so you can put the name to the face. That's Russell Lafitte right there. While the initial indictment did not mention Murdaugh by name, it said Lafitte collected nearly almost like $400K in fees for serving as a personal rep for the 6 clients of the personal injury attorney at law firm in Hampton in South Carolina, according to a July press release in the U.S. Attorney's Office. Wait, I don't understand though. So if Russell Lafitte is the one that had control of the victim's money, and Murdaugh is saying, well, I borrowed money from their accounts, but Russell had nothing to do with it. But how would Russell have not known if he's the one that had control of the accounts? Like, come on now. Like, and you're a CEO too, so you should definitely have known better. Come on. Lafitte transferred personal loans to himself and Murdaugh from the 6 conservator accounts, and they used the funds for personal expense. Oh yeah, and he also transferred money to his own self too. What's his explanation for not guilty? Oh, I didn't do it. I wasn't involved. They used the funds for personal expense, prosecutors said during the trial last year. The new motion for a new trial quotes Murdaugh's testimony when he took witness stand on his own trial. I don't dispute any of these, that I took money that didn't belong to me, that I misled people that trusted me to do that, and that I did what was horrible. I don't dispute that, Murdaugh said. Russell Lafitte never conspired with me to do anything. Whatever was done by me. He added later, you keep talking all the stuff I did with Russell Lafitte, but what I want to let you know is that I did this. I'm the one who took people's money that I shouldn't have taken, and that Russell Lafitte was not involved in helping me do that knowingly. I wonder if Russell Lafitte, I don't know, do you think he owes Russell Lafitte for something, or does Russell know something that, is like, why is he protecting Russell so much? If he did it without knowing it. Okay. The Lafitte and Murdaugh family rose to South Carolina prominence around the same time in the early 20th century when Lafitte's founded Palmetto State Bank. Oh man, I wonder if Russell Lafitte is like the Alex Murdaugh of the Lafitte family. So both their families were very prominent. The Lafitte started this bank right here. Murdaugh started their law firm. And here they both are just getting fucked. Oh man. Lex Luthor. I think someone called him the Breaking Bad dude. Shit. What was the Breaking Bad dude's name again? You know what? I think I see Lex Luthor more than the Breaking Bad dude. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so that's Russell Lafitte. Let's go back to this.
Nothing. I let these girls down. They needed me. They didn't have a father figure. I should have done more. I should have given them a good transition when I gave them their files so that they could understand who to hire. She didn't even know we needed an accountant. She didn't even know, about tax returns at 18 years old and different things like that. She's getting income. So,
yeah, they don't care. They only care about themselves.
Elena definitely walked out of that courtroom saying to herself, not only did I do the right thing, and did the right thing, but I'm glad I did it.
So Eric, were you able to get all of the money that Hannah and Elena were due through?
Yes.
Okay.
And then some.
Yay.
Is that would that be kind of punitive damages, that type of thing?
Yeah, it's just how we got as creative as we could to put damages on the table. The spread in the interest rates, but he charged her 18% on a car loan, which she had the cash to buy, and then litigation loans that were
18%. Oh my God!
During the time that the original case was pending, were between 24 and 29% interest, Anjanette, and they're 6-month loans, so they constantly roll over.
So, Elena, how are you doing now, you and your sister? I mean, you've gotten the money you're due and then some, but obviously you've been through something very traumatic. It's the car wreck, losing your mother and your brother, and then this on top of it. How are you doing now?
Yeah, I will say I didn't think that it was going to be as emotional and I'll say traumatizing as what it ended up being. I was like, this is going to be fine. This happened 15 plus years ago, like, let's just get this out of the way and be done. But as we're moving through this case over the past year and a half, Hannah and I both realized it opened up a lot of wounds and a lot of trauma and emotions that we thought were dealt with 15 years ago started resurfacing. And I'll tell you, it definitely has taken and has continued to take a mental toll on both Hannah and I. Not to mention, we also lost our father in September, this past September. So we've just had a lot going on, having to relive the death of our mom and our brother, and then the death of our father happening, and then just reliving the worst days of our life.
Russell Lafitte was convicted at that trial last year, and he is awaiting sentencing. Then came the double murder trial of Alex Murdaugh for the deaths of his wife Maggie and son Paul. Murdaugh was asked by Creighton Waters about Elena and her sister.
Who were the plowers?
They were two young girls from Colombia.
They were underage when they became your clients?
Yes, sir.
Did they suffer a loss in their family as a result of an accident?
They did.
What loss did they suffer? Who died?
It's kind of weird how when Creighton was like, who are the Plyers? He was just like, oh, they're two young girls in Colombia. Like, no, there's actually more to that. You would think his response would be like, oh, they're two young girls, suffered a tragic accident. They lost their mom, they lost their son, and they became my clients. He didn't care about them. That's why he's like, just two young girls from Colombia.
Their mother did.
It was so disconnected. And I remember looking at my husband and I was like, did he forget that there was a 14-year-old boy that also died in that car wreck? That was my brother. Did he forget that I was airlifted to the hospital because I nearly lost my life too? The same hospital he was airlifted in that roadside shooting. Did he forget about all of the other traumas? I mean, yes, of course, we lost our mom, but there was so much more than that I would have. So I found it pretty disrespectful that he made millions of dollars off of not only my deceased mother, but my deceased 14-year-old brother, and you didn't have the audacity to remember him, but you say that you're a good guy and that, that you would, you cared about your clients. But you
Elena.
About the 14-year-old little boy that didn't stand a chance, but you made, again, millions off of him. So that really bothered me.
Yeah.
Russell Lafitte was convicted at that trial last year, as I mentioned, and he is awaiting sentencing. He will be sentenced at a later date. Right now, he is requesting a new trial.
The victims will be able to speak at his sentence.
I wonder I don't get it though. Just because Alex Murdaugh said that oh, he's not involved, they must have a mountain full of evidence that pointed to Russell Lafitte being involved, So just Alex Murdaugh testifying under oath on its own, I don't know, man. Getting trial.
And I'm pretty certain that Elena is going to have choice words. I don't think Hannah will probably speak. She'll have me do it, but Elena will have some pretty choice words.
All right. Well, Elena Spahn and Eric Bland, thanks so much for coming on today. We really appreciate it. And I'm sorry for everything you've been through, but hopefully the future holds only good things.
Oh, I'm so glad that she was able to find like a good lawyer that like, he seems pretty badass. Like no, like, doesn't deal with like no nonsense and stuff, badass, right to the point and stuff like that. So I'm happy for her. Get, money back. Dude, to go through all of that before you become an adult, that's tough. And like she mentioned, like it's like traumatizing to relive all that trauma all over again, I just thought it was really sad that like she didn't have, when she was just like, none of the family members wanted to take her and her sister in, and she felt like the only time they would take them in is when if they needed that like social security check for that month or something like that. Like, I don't know, it's sad. Bad for her.